The 5 pillars of a great watch according to me are the case and design, the movement, the strap or bracelet, the wearability or comfort, and the price. An extra category that matters to some is brand history and heritage. While the Nomos Club Sports Neomatic 37 has some flaws, it largely nails all these categories. In this video, I'll talk about the watch across the 6 pillars and present my opinions as an actual paying customer. Just for fun, I'll also score the watch across these pillars for a final score out of 60. Now there's always a question mark on the fit of Nomos watches on smaller wrists, so I'll be including plenty of wrist shots. And hey, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to hit the like button. Okay, let's dive in. In typical Nomos style, the watch is simple, clean and minimalistic, clearly inspired by the Bauhaus school of design. I know some people may find the design a bit too simple, but handle the watch in person and you'll see the subtle but attractive details like the green sunburst dial that Nomos calls petrol and the darker sub-dial with the radial guilloche. The 37mm model offers another color, Ola Blue, which is good looking as well. Overall, I find the dials on these Club Sports way more interesting and elevated compared to the Tangente or Club Campus models. Now the case, absolute stunner. It's fully polished, which means it looks amazing for about the first 5 minutes before you inevitably scratch it. This case comes in at 37mm in diameter with a lug-to-lug distance of 47.7mm, and at just 8.1mm thick, it looks super sleek and elegant. I like to say that this watch has the build of a dress watch with the capability of a sports watch. That's because despite the slimness, this watch manages to house an in-house automatic movement and boasts a water resistance of 200 meters. So the watch is 3mm thinner than the Tudor Blackway 54, which is a slim watch in itself, and offers the same depth rating. That's insane. Now, coming to the lugs. The dreaded Nomos lugs that have been known to strike fear even in the largest wristed of us. And I've been a victim of Nomos lugs in the past. If you've followed this channel for a while, you may remember that I made a video last year talking about just how much I disliked the super long straight lugs on the Club Campus. The lugs on that 36mm watch made it almost unwearable for my 6-inch wrist. And Nomos actually watched that video and defended their design philosophy. Fair enough, I respect that. I just accepted the fact that the Club Campus wasn't for me. So when I heard that the Club Sports Neomatic had an even longer lug-to-lug measurement, I braced myself for disappointment. But plot twist, when I tried the watch on, I found it to wear quite well on me. The key difference? The shape of the lugs. The lugs on the Club Sports Neomatic have a much nicer downward curve, making them sit better on my wrist. Also with the articulating bracelet, I found the watch to conform pretty well to the natural shape of my wrist. That said, the size is still pushing it for my 6-inch wrist, and I would have preferred slightly smaller lugs. But if your wrist is 6 inches or larger, you can totally pull this off, especially if you have a flat wrist like mine. I'll give the case and design a 9 out of 10. Powering this timepiece is the Nomos DUW 3001 automatic movement. It's only 3.2mm thick, has a 43-hour power reserve, beats at 3 Hz and is adjusted in 6 positions, one more than the chronometer standard. Translation: it's a great movement. The finishing is also at a much higher standard than most movements in its price range. What's more is that 95% of the movement is built in their hometown Glashütte, making it in-houser than most in-house movements. Accuracy-wise, my watch runs within a few seconds per day. Now there is an open caseback option available that flaunts the beautiful movement. But that version is $400 more expensive and your boy is cheap. No, seriously, a $400 bump for a sapphire crystal is steep. And since I buy most of the watches I review with my own money, costs tend to add up. And I just couldn't justify the $400 upcharge here. Anyway, I'll give the movement a 9 out of 10. The Club Sports Neomatic comes on a shiny oyster-style bracelet. As you can see, the central rings are polished, continuing the polished theme throughout. Purely visually, I think the bracelet looks great, but the shiny bracelet is definitely going to show wear in a few weeks, maybe even a few days. The clasp is another big chunk of polish just waiting to be scratched. I would have definitely taken a brushed finish here. On the plus side, it's comfortable and even has a mini on-the-fly micro adjust, which is convenient, though not as refined as what you'd find on higher end watches. The 18mm lug width might annoy some strap swappers, but I don't mind it. And for the record, I did put the Nomos on leather straps just to mix it up. But to be honest, the super long lugs mean that there's plenty of wrist visible. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see my wrist hair poking out between the lugs. So yeah, the bracelet stays on. I'll give the bracelet an 8 out of 10. The wearability category essentially means how practical and comfortable the watch is on a daily basis. And the Nomos Club Sport Neomatic is pretty much a perfect everyday sports watch. It's firstly super sleek and elegant without being too flashy. It has a great automatic movement and 200 meters of water resistance. The lume on the watch is pretty good too. As you can see, the watch gets plenty bright in the dark. The bracelet is comfortable as a daily wearer and the micro adjust makes it weatherproof. In terms of general wearability, the watch sits very flat on my wrist. In fact, it sits lower than my wrist hair, and that says a lot. No, not about my hairiness, but about the slimness of the watch. The watch is also very light for a steel watch, coming in at just around 100 grams with the bracelet size to my wrist, which is about 25 grams lighter than the Black Bay 54. Overall, it's a very practical and comfortable go anywhere do anything watch. As for the score, the watch gets a 9 out of 10. It only loses a point due to the long lugs, making it on the larger side for me and not the best on a strap. At just over $3,000, I think the Nomos is priced competitively. You're getting a great design with a super slim case, an in-house movement, a great bracelet, and excellent overall finishing. As I said before, the $400 price bump for the open caseback version does seem like a cash grab. That said, the closed caseback model at $3,150 is a great option around $3,000. One thing that irks me is the depreciation on the secondary market. I know, it's inevitable with most watch brands, but my wallet doesn't like seeing that these watches sell for much less used. 8 out of 10 for price. Lastly, the heritage. Nomos is a relatively young watch brand founded only in 1990. Despite that, today Nomos is the largest German manufacturer in terms of volume. More importantly, Nomos remains fiercely independent and prides itself on a fully integrated manufacturing process, producing 95% of the watch in Glashütte. And despite being a relatively niche brand, most enthusiasts are familiar with the iconic Nomos design language. So Nomos does have a strong brand identity to those in the know. Still, Nomos remains largely unknown to the broader public outside the watch circles. Overall, the German brand has limited brand recognition compared to the Swiss luxury giants. It's not one of the historic watch brands. Again, this doesn't matter much to me, but it does to some people. So I'll give the Nomos an 8 out of 10 for brand history and heritage. Tallying up the total, the Nomos gets a very good score of 51 out of 60. So is the Nomos Club Sport Neomatic worth it? Absolutely. It's a sleek, dressy sports watch that punches above its weight. It's got the build of a dress watch with the capability of a sports watch. The bracelet is solid, the movement is impressive, and yes, even with the long lugs, it's wearable on smaller wrists. Sure, it's super polished and scratches easily, and the lugs may still be too long for some, but if you can look past that, this is one of the best everyday sports watches in its price range. And I would highly recommend this watch to anyone looking for a watch around the $3,000 budget. That's all from me today. If you enjoyed this review, consider subscribing. My next video will feature this limited edition Doxa Sub 200T, another watch I've bought recently and will review from a customer's point of view. Again, thanks a lot for watching. Peace.